All right. Hi, everybody. It's Karen from Online BlogCon 14. I'm very excited to be here today. This is our first presentation, and I would like to introduce Jillian Warner. Jillian is here to speak to us about pitching to various online social companies. She comes from Social Stars, from CrowdTap, and she is a new mom, so please give her a little bit of slack on little lack of sleep. She's just returned off of maternity leave. And we are going to get into how to pitch, how to take, how to find out if your pitch is good, find out why you might not have been selected for a campaign, and find out more about working with your campaign leaders and things of that nature. On with me is Nancy. She's going to be moderating the comments through the conference. So please, while you're watching, type in a comment, ask Jillian a question, find out more about what you want. Just go ahead and type it in. She'll be watching all those questions and comments. And Lisa is on as well. She'll be taking notes. Hi, Lisa. So that when you watch it later, if you're watching this later, you can refer to Lisa's notes for all the times of when our topics are being discussed. Anything, questions, comments, please feel free to post them. I'd also like to remind everybody that our giveaways went live today. So we have 3 giveaways. One is from OXO, one is from Driscoll Berries, and we have another one from Bakery Charms. So check that out on the giveaway page. Please support our sponsors, tweet and Instagram. We're asking that you show some thank you, some appreciation, and good luck to everybody. You can enter these giveaways every day, so there's no limit. All right, let's get going with Jillian. Jillian, you're on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Like Karen said, I do a lot of influencer outreach and basically am the person who I have a blog as well, so I understand where most of you guys are coming from, but I'm that person who is picking influencers and reading pitches and checking out sponsored posts and really figuring out who the right people are. So hopefully I'll have some good tips for you to figure out how you can secure more sponsored posts and how you can improve your work if you're already working with a bunch of different networks, and just figure out how to make more money, which is everyone's goal, I think, in this realm. So I am going to share my screen with you and show you this presentation that should give you some really good tips on how to monetize your blog with networks. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is find the right network for you. There are a lot of networks out there, and pretty much all of them work with the same kinds of criteria, but differently. So know that what works for a friend, even if they're your best friend or a blog that you really admire, it may actually not work for you. Some networks are very based upon, just straight up numbers, what are your unique visitors. Some are a lot more accepting of, what's your photo quality like, what's your creativity. So I'm going to go through all of that. The best thing that you can do when you're trying to figure out what network might be right for you is to visit other blogs that you admire and see, who are they working with. Because odds are, if it's somebody that, you sort of put on a pedestal, who they're working with and their beliefs and how they like to work is probably similar to something that you might do. You can follow the hashtag for a campaign. I highly suggest doing this, checking it out by popping it into Google, popping it into Twitter, Instagram, all those different channels, and get a feel for what the posts and the social content look like. This will really help you know, is this a fit for me? Is it something where it's very image focused if you're a really great photographer? Is it something where it's people who just have very, very high reach and are posting frequently and reaching just a high reach audience? That may be something that for those that are more in the giveaway or frugal realm, that's what works for them. Check out the requirements to join the network and see if they seem reasonable for you. If the requirements are 50,000 unique visitors and you're at 5,000 unique visitors, it's probably not going to be a fit. However, if it's something that's pretty close to where you are, but you're still on the smaller side maybe, or you don't have the social following that they're asking for, you can certainly make your case to a point of contact, and by reaching out and explaining who you are and what you're all about and showing them your work, there's a very good chance that even if you don't meet those requirements exactly, that they will be willing to work with you, especially because they know that you're forward thinking and you really care and you want it. So those are the first steps to finding the right network. And then this is really important because this is what networks are looking for in your blog. So whenever we're going to your blog and we're going through and we're seeing, who are we approving for a certain opportunity, or even just to be admitted to a community, a lot of the things that people are looking at are, the first thing is really, what is the layout and the overall appeal of your blog? If we go to your blog and it's impossible to even get to the content because there are pop-up ads and there's just no way to be able to decipher what's new and what's old, if the layout is very confusing, if it's popping up with like me on Facebook and takeover ads and all the stuff, it makes it very hard to imagine how that's a good experience for a user. So generally speaking, at least I know I will probably take a smaller blog that has a great layout and is easy to navigate versus a larger blog that looks like that. The general focus of your blog is super important. Where are you? Are you all over the place? Are you pretty focused where you're a food blogger and you really stick to that and you know what your audience is looking for? You can certainly be a lifestyle blogger. It probably helps if you're not talking about cat litter one day, tampons another day, and like a great lasagna recipe the next day. Seeing a little bit of a focus is definitely something that we're looking for so that we know who it is that you're targeting and what you're all about. Your blog stats, of course, always will count. You've worked very hard for them. They're a huge part of things. I don't think that people should get as caught up on them as they do, though, because quality really does count for a lot. And I think that what's changing in this space is that networks are really looking for better quality over statistics. So if you're somebody that has, say, 20,000 unique visitors a month, and your blog is beautiful and you take great photos and you really know how to tell a story organically, then odds are that you would certainly be chosen for an opportunity over somebody with 35,000 unique visitors who maybe it comes off reading more as an ad, they're taking pictures with a cell phone. Like, odds are that you would get chosen instead. So know that your blog stats certainly count for things, but they're not everything. Your photo capabilities, as many of you probably know, I think the game is changing in that realm, and I think companies are really starting to demand better quality in that regard. I know for me that this is a huge, huge thing at Social Stars, is that we are really looking for people who can deliver and consistently deliver great photos. That's something that's really important for networks like Instagram, where a lot of our clients, I would say, are asking for more of that. They're asking for very image-focused things. Obviously, many of you know Pinterest and the Gawkers and all of those really rely on great photos. So you're going to want that. And then your creativity. Like, we want to see that you're not doing the most obvious thing with a product. If it's a product that you're using, if it's, M&Ms and you baked cookies with M&Ms like 500 other people, like, we would hope that you would have some sort of interesting spin on it instead. Your writing style is really important as in terms of being able to tell a personal story or even add some sort of a personal spin, even if you're a food blogger, where usually they're more general and really focused on the food itself. Being able to tell a story behind it that makes it authentic and original to you is very, very important, and it's what sets you apart from a lot of other people that maybe won't give that original story and will just sort of tell about the product and show the recipe, and like, we really want that little extra bit that makes it yours. And I think a lot of people forget about this when they are looking at a network or wondering why they didn't get picked for a pitch. If you look at the first 2 pages of your blog, which probably, if you, let's say you have 5 posts on a page, probably somebody like me, they're only going to get to look at the first 2 or 3 pages of your blog. So you may have done some great recipes like 5 months ago, but if what you're posting right now is really focused on, you know, children's toys or pet things or whatever it is, odds are that, you know, the chances of you getting picked for, say, a food op, unless it's very focused on a family-oriented setting, are going to be a lot less. So you're going to want to, like, check your current content, see what it's looking like, and then that, you know, really should help you get a feel for what we're seeing, because as much as we would love to look at everybody's history of what they've done for the last year, that's just not reality when you're looking at several hundred people in the course of a couple of days. So those are the main.
Jillian, sorry. So you're saying really stick to, just because all these opportunities are out there, it's not always in our best interest to take everyone or to apply for everyone.
Definitely. I think that, you know, saying no is a great thing. And knowing what is not a fit for you is a great thing. And the blogs that are good at doing that, they are probably the ones that get the most pitches in the long run, because, you know, it's a lot more meaningful when we know that we're hitting the right audience because the focus is there and what they're coming to and what they expect to get from your blog is what they're going to receive, rather than some sort of, you know, potluck, whatever it is that we decided to post today that's sponsored.
Right.
It's definitely worth a lot in the long run. So I definitely think that staying true to what it is that you do, unless you really have some, you know, personal take on something that's slightly off focus, I would really keep it to your focus.
Okay, good.
All right. And then your social channels. I know that we spend a lot of time worrying about these things. They're always changing. What's important? What's allowed? What are we supposed to do with them? So here's what we're looking at when we look at your social channels. The first thing is definitely your following. Trying to understand, so somebody may have 30,000 followers on Twitter and they may be a Twitter party host. So we're looking at things like that to understand, you know, what your potential reach is. Obviously, somebody who has 30,000 followers on Twitter versus somebody who has 300, they have a better reach. There's just no way around that. No matter, you know, how beautiful the content is that's coming out of the person with 300 followers on that network, that's just the reality of it. After that, though, we are looking at quality of content, especially on channels like an Instagram or Pinterest. We're looking to see, you know, what are you really putting out there? And then your voice and how professional you are. Are you getting into fights with people on Twitter? Are you, you know, tweeting negative things about brands? Not that you're never allowed to say anything negative, but if you're, you know, constantly out there stirring up controversy about things, then it puts us in a position where we have to question, you know, how are you going to handle things? Are you going to handle it professionally? You know, do you know, like, sort of what the limits are and what you should or maybe shouldn't say publicly? There are plenty of people who have blogs that are all over the map. One of my favorite bloggers actually talks about sex a lot on her blog, but she has a wonderful following. She still is very professional. She knows, like, what to say and what not to say in the grand scheme of things. So we really are looking at that because, you know, as you know, social can be a huge liability. So that really is important. So when you're thinking about, like, getting into a battle with the airline that messed up your seat, like, I would just take a minute, step back, and remember, is that your personal account? Is that your business account? You know, would you as a business want to be looked at that way? So I think it's very important to keep those things in mind. And then your engagement is super important. I have recently come across a blogger who has 40,000 followers on Instagram and gets about 10 likes per photo. So for those of you who are on that channel, you probably know that you know, level of following and that engagement don't align at all, which means to me that, you know, this person has accumulated these followers. I'm not sure how, whether it's through giveaways or some other way that I won't even mention. But if that's, you know, if you're not showing engagement for the numbers that you're posting, you're saying you have 100,000 Facebook fans, and you go to your Facebook page and nobody's liking any of the posts that are on there and nobody's talking about it, then that definitely shows that your audience is not at all engaged and those numbers don't really count for nearly as much as we would want them to. And then we also look at follower ratios a little bit. I think it's an important ratio to keep in mind. If you have 40,000 followers on Twitter and you're following 39,000 people, then chances are that you do not have as much of a social pull as somebody who has 40,000 followers on Twitter and is following 2,000 people. So there's a good chance that, if you're just following and in that follow back club or whatever it is, that those are not those true things that are coming to you because you have something to say. So those are all things that we're really looking at in the social channels.
Can I pop in for a question?
Yeah.
On your engagement, are you adjusting your thought process on Facebook right now because of the way that Facebook is really hurting, in my opinion, myself especially, bloggers and stuff on Facebook?
Yeah.
Good interaction going.
Definitely. And, I think nobody really knows where Facebook is going, or at least I feel that I don't really know where it's going. I think for me, Facebook is something that I will look at the following. I will look and see, like, who's talking, who's not. I mean, I personally only have, like, 4,000 Facebook fans. But on almost every post, there's a minimum of, 5 to 30 people that are liking it or talking about it. And so to me, it's like if I see somebody who has, 30 times the number of followers that I have, and they're not getting that, even though I know Facebook is not showing posted things, it shows me that they're not working for it, They're not getting that engagement on things, and they're not interacting with their audience enough. They're just posting things. We all know that Facebook is making it very difficult for everybody. Quite frankly, I don't think I'm ever going to count somebody out of an opportunity based on, just Facebook in general, and they're always changing algorithms. But I just want you to keep in mind that we are looking for some sort of engagement. If people are commenting, are you commenting back? Are you talking to them? If somebody does actually come in and say something, or is it just a place where, like, content is being auto-post dumped? So that's really what we're looking for in engagement, not necessarily, you must have this number.
Okay, and also, are you taking into Google Plus engagement these days?
We are, and I think that I would like to see more focus on that, to be honest, all around the blogging realm. I know there are some people that have fantastic Google Plus engagement. I can't tell you what I think is going to happen with Google Plus. I feel like there's always all these little rumors like Google Plus is super important. Google Plus is less important today. And I can't really say, what I think the 5-year plan of Google Plus is, but definitely, I mean, it's helping you get your blog post listed higher on Google. When I'm going through and I'm looking at the posts from a campaign, I actually will type the hashtag into Google without even looking at any of the posts, also just to see, like, who's popping up near the top, how is this working, and just taking a little bit of a look and then going back and looking through some of those shares and seeing. So it definitely does count for something. I think number one, even over all of the social channels and all that stuff, is going to be the content that you are posting. Like, what is your full package of content looking like? And if your blog post stunk, then your Google Plus doesn't really help you that much. But it definitely does count for something.
Okay.
I have a question if I could pop in real fast. Valerie is asking you, Jillian, which social media channels do networks prefer? Do they really want Twitter, Instagram? Where would you recommend we focus our growth efforts on?
I think there's no right answer to that, because we really do look at different networks based on also what the client is asking for. There's certain clients that come and say, we want to focus on Instagram, or we are very, very interested in just Facebook, or just Twitter, because there's events like around it, or there's a certain contest that's going on that we have this hashtag for that we're really focused on Twitter. So I don't think there's a right answer for me to tell you, what networks in general are looking for. I think really good advice that I could give you would be to pick one or two and really choose to focus on them. Pick which ones you like working on, because if you don't like doing it, personally, I kind of don't like tweeting. To me, it's just not fun. It doesn't do anything for me. personally, but I really love Instagram, and I just because it's more visual, I like how people interact. So for me, I've chosen to focus there because it's something I enjoy, so it's not work to me, so that like I've been able to grow my following faster and really have a little bit more of an engaged following. So the best advice I could give you would be pick one or two, really go for those, but pick the ones that you really like. And you enjoy and you don't feel mad at the end of the day. So if you pick Facebook at the end of the day, don't pick Facebook to be your one to go after then. But that, I think, is definitely the key to feeling good about actually really working on that and not feeling like it's just work and it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else right
now? There's one more question. How do you recommend boosting engagement? If I find I get many page views but not a lot of comments, I'm hearing that is more common with bloggers now because people don't have time. I guess maybe what Kelly's trying to say is that the engagement on her post, there's not a lot of comments. So are you gauging the engagement based on how many pins, how many retweets, how many shares versus like comments on a post?
Yeah, quite frankly, I don't count blog post comments for very much. I mean, I know that there are some PR companies out there that really like to look at them. I would think I would say that a lot of the maybe bigger networks, this is not their main focus that they're looking at, because we all know it can kind of be a pain in the butt to go and take the time to leave a comment on a blog versus write something on Facebook, write something on another social channel. So to me, if somebody, I mean, I have posts that have been viewed tons and tons and tons of times, that have been shared and pinned and all these things, and they have like 2 comments on them. So coming from that, I'm aware that that the comments on your blog do not necessarily align with how much the post is being shared. So, you know, we definitely have analytics that we're running on all the social channels, as well as, you know, at Social Stars, we have a certain, basically like a plugin that we allow people to use so we can see just sort of what their engagement is for a certain post if they want to. It's optional to them. That helps us give a better sense of how it's doing, but I certainly would say that most networks probably take comments on the blog with a grain of salt at this point. There are much more efficient ways to be able to share how you feel about somebody's work. So I wouldn't stress over that. Okay. I'm going to move on to talking about, you know, before you apply for or accept an op. At Social Stars, the way that we work is we usually don't have open up applications for things. We do a little bit of back-end work first, where we go and somebody like me, we now have a little team who will go and look at different blogs and know what the client ask is and figure out who we should ask and who we should invite to an opportunity. At which point we may extend more applications than there are spaces for to fill. And that's normally something that you would do to make sure that you sort of meet your number of people, but we don't just post every opportunity to everyone. So if you're a food blogger, odds are you probably won't get, you know, beauty ops sent to you, and vice versa. So I think there are a lot of networks, though, where you can apply for anything. They send out all of the opportunities to everyone. And I know it's very easy, especially when there's like a really nice dollar amount attached to the opportunity, to start to think, oh, I could do this. Like, how could I do this? So really the most important thing, and this is sort of referencing what Karen said earlier, is to really ask yourself if it's a fit for you. Is it a fit for your blog? Is it a fit for your readers? If you know, put yourself in a reader's shoe who's like a loyal follower of yours, and they come to your site, are they going to be like, why are they talking about this? Or will they think, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense? So that's the number one thing. I would say a lot of my good friends are in some sort of a campaign leader, campaign manager position. A lot of my blogging friends, and we definitely, you know, we talk about this amongst ourselves, and, you know, we know who the people are that apply for everything under the sun. And who the people are that are very picky about what it is that they will put on their site, and, you know, making sure that what it is sticking with what they say. If there's somebody that only eats organic, they're probably not going to go and go for some sort of very, you know, processed or packaged food. So it's important to really make sure that you are sticking with things that are a fit for you, and I can't stress that enough. If somebody is coming to you like me, where they're coming to you with an opportunity and it seems like, I don't really know how this applies to me, you can definitely ask and find out. Maybe they had a certain take on it that they thought it might be good for you. And it might be worth it to reach out and say, hey, I got this opportunity, it's maybe not something that's my norm. Was there a reason why it might have been sent to me? And it may be just good to ask the question. But before you apply, in general, I would say research the product or the cause that you are about to take on, because a lot of times it's a new product that's coming out. You want as much information as possible. You want to know that it's really a fit for you, especially if, let's say, it's a food item and there are certain ingredients that, you only write about things that are gluten-free. Well, then obviously you should make sure that the product is a match for your site first before you're applying, getting accepted, and causing somebody a big headache because they have to replace you because they just found out at the 11th hour that it does not work for you. You should make sure that you feel good about the ask. If somebody is asking you for 10 photos on Instagram with your post and you're like, no way, I can't possibly do that, I'll be spamming my audience, you want to make sure that whatever the ask is and all of the different parts of it you feel good about, because you don't want to back out later on and you don't want to feel like you're doing something that doesn't feel right to your audience. You want to know your elevator pitch, and that's that little pitch that's going to help you get in. And I'm definitely going to expand on that in a minute. And you want to be prepared with examples of your best work. You should be able to quickly pull up a couple of links to posts that are relevant that you think, really show off how well you can write, photograph, all of that. You want to make sure that you can meet the deadline and don't have conflicts, because a lot of times people will come back and then say, oh, I realized I have 3 posts due that day. Can I move the date? And sometimes it can be moved, and sometimes it just can't. So it's better just to avoid that situation altogether if you can. I know that things are constantly changing, and it may be where that's not possible, but do your best. And then again, if you're unsure about anything when you see an op, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to a campaign manager, a campaign leader, whoever they are, people that are in sort of my role that are reaching out to you on occasion. We're pretty much all really nice and don't feel like there are any stupid questions out there, so don't hesitate to ask. It's much better to have the information up front than to not know what's going on and then later have some sort of huge problem. So definitely don't hesitate to ask.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So maybe you're going to get to this. Maybe this is the elevator pitch part, but so we get the application, or we see this awesome thing, and we really think it'll be great for our blog. I'm a dessert blogger, so I see you had a great Hershey's campaign that I worked on last year, and I was like, that's perfect. I want Hershey's. Gimme. And is it better to respond like as soon as possible to that? Like, will it get your attention if I respond quickly, or is it better to like wait, really think about it, brainstorm a few ideas, and then 2 days later when your application date expires, like put it in, wait a few days and put it in later after you've had time? Does that make a difference to your selection?
A little bit. Okay, perfect question, and I am going to talk about that in this next slide. So I'm going to address that right now, actually. Okay. Yes, and there is a good answer to that in here. So I will answer that question right now. So the elevator pitch is basically a minute or less. I actually like to say 30 seconds or less to sell your blog and your idea. And this is that great idea that you're coming up with. So you're going to submit this when you apply. Read the op description at least twice. I can't tell you how many pitches we get where it's like you're a little bit off. You're talking about a different product within the family of products, or the way that it was meant to be applied, where it's like we want a family-oriented post and the take on it is something like completely out there. It's like, I'm going to go have a night out with my girlfriends, and it's like, well, that's not what we were looking for. So definitely read that and make sure that you are on target with whatever it is. I will admit that I have messed that up in the past, gotten all excited, read the op really quickly, and then was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do, and then half an hour later realized, oh, that was completely wrong. So don't be me, and definitely do that. Learn from that mistake. Don't do it. We see it probably every time that I send out an op. I see at least one of those. So don't be that person. think of what the most obvious pitch is and don't use it. So like I said with the M&Ms and the M&M cookies, like be somebody else. Be somebody who, I don't know, comes up with something way more interesting to do with M&Ms than that. Make an M&M's rainbow, make some kind of other dessert, but don't be the M&M cookie lady. Allow yourself time to brainstorm. This is exactly going into what the question was. Allow yourself time to brainstorm, but put a cap on it. Most people who are in my realm, when we say, here's the application, and it just comes out to you, and it says the deadline is 2 days from today, as we're approaching that deadline, we're basically, at that point, I think most of us have sort of figured out who we're probably going to use, who we might not be able to use, you know, where we're really at that point, because we have some pretty strict deadlines to stick to, we're finishing out our selection. So I think applying sooner versus later, don't rush yourself, like I said. I mean, you have more than 10 minutes, read the description, think about it a bit, give yourself a few hours, wait until the next day, that's totally fine. But I would not wait until the end, because at that point, we are trying to sort of usually chase down some people that we really, really, really wanted to be in this opportunity, or, you know, we're trying to figure out where we stand. Are we going to have enough people? Do we have so many people, you know, that, you know, now we have to sort of figure out who are we going to use. But I definitely think it's worth it to take time to brainstorm, but do not wait till the last minute. That would be my advice to you. Putting it in sooner versus later is definitely to your advantage. Did that answer that question? Okay, good.
It's like getting your resume in. I mean, you don't want to be the first applicant, but you surely don't want to be the last applicant.
Right. I mean, exactly. Like I said, you know, you want a little bit of time to think it over. Don't feel like you have to rush. But I think most people that are, again, in my realm know that, you know, you don't want to be that last person coming in at the very end of the deadline, because and the reality is that even though, like, we will totally accept applications and look at them, at that point, a lot of us were juggling. I mean, there have been times where I've had, you know, over 10 campaigns going at one time where we're making sure that, you know, we're set for this campaign. So certainly sooner versus later would be to your advantage.
Okay.
And then make sure you can pull off whatever it is that you pitch. I know that at Social Stars, we're pretty lenient as far as not necessarily holding you to exactly the one thing that you may have pitched. I like to give people a little bit of leeway. I know things change, but if you did pitch this great idea, we would like you to be able to actually, you know, go through with it in theory. So if you come up with a great idea, definitely be sure that you can deliver on it. If you do change your mind, you know, reach out to the campaign leader, because odds are that in a certain setting, like I said, I'm going to reference the M&Ms again just because it's easy, they've probably picked people who didn't give the most obvious things, so they're looking for diversity. They're going to want to show a client, you know, here are 10 different ideas, not just 2 different ideas. So try to do what it is that you pitched if you got picked. And you're going to want to be descriptive without writing a novel. So you're going to want to give some juicy little details, but keep it to, you know, maybe 3-5 sentences the most. Nobody needs a giant, super long paragraph going on and on about what you're going to do. It's, again, a lot of people are going through and reading many pitches at a time, and so, you know, just don't have the time to get through something like that. But I would be concise, but give your good ideas. And then send yourself an email with your pitch in it, or copy it somewhere that you can reference. Some systems allow you to see it. I know that ours doesn't necessarily allow you to see what it is that you wrote you were going to do. And I personally always like to be able to see what was it that I said, because then when you come back 2 weeks later and you've been dealing with 100 different things and writing all these posts, and now it's time to actually execute your idea, you're like, what was my idea? You can always ask the person in charge of your campaign. However, obviously, it's easier if you already have it to reference. So that's basically the elevator pitch. That's your opportunity to really sell your blog and set it apart from other people and get yourself into that opportunity. So
good.
And then this is a very interesting topic, I think, for a lot of people, is knowing what it is that you can charge. Most networks come with a pretty set payment, and I think that's generally speaking the standard. There are some networks where, you may get different payment amounts based on, they may give you a goal, or they may say, based on your size or whatever it is that you are, this is what your payment is. And I think I see a lot of people around the blogosphere getting really torn up about, how much people are offering for payments for certain things. I know at Social Stars that we really try to keep our payments on the higher side. We want people to feel rewarded and that, like, your work counts and that you're not working for peanuts. I think that's really important. I know me as a blogger, I don't want to feel like I'm, doing all this stuff and getting paid a very, very low amount of money. So when we're looking at your blog to think, what is it that you should be getting, or, is your blog worthy of what it is that we're paying for this campaign? One question that you should ask yourself is, what is the cost of real estate on your blog? So if you're working with, networks or different places that will give you these very inorganic pitches or these infographics to share, and they're paying you $15 to put them on your blog or something like that, somebody like me has to come in and has to say, why should I pay you $250 for the same amount of real estate on your blog that somebody is paying you $15 for? So now you could make the argument that, what they're asking you to do is a lot less work, and that's totally true, and that counts for something, absolutely. But also, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, do I want this piece that I'm asking you to do resting next to a bunch of these little things where somebody, has decided to place an article on your website, for some link juice or whatever it is? We are looking at that, and we care about that, and that's important to us. So do you take those low-paying inorganic pitches, and then you should be thinking about what the ask is, how long you think it'll take you, and do you have a factor that qualifies you for a pay increase? Do you reach a certain audience? Do you have 500,000 unique visitors? If you do, you probably deserve more than whatever the regular normal payment is. And if that's the case, then you probably can come back to somebody and say, hey, this is probably what my rate is. And if you are that large, you probably do have a rate. And are you prepared to back up any claims that you're going to make with real analytics, which really means, Google Analytics is pretty much the golden standard. So that's what we're looking at, and we're seeing if you're saying that's what we want to see.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So a lot of times these pitches that come out, we have the option to go back in and say, hey, I have X percent higher or more, or, I generally, are we able to negotiate these rates?
I think the answer to that is, generally speaking, no, but okay, on occasion, yes. I think, I know that, with my blog, there are certain things where I can negotiate, and then there are certain things where I just know, I'm probably in what the middle range is for people that are in that campaign, and that I probably can't ask for more money. Now, again, when I'm saying, to really get a pay increase, I'm really talking about people that have, 300, 400, 500,000 unique visitors that they're getting. And those people, just because, numbers do count for something, they really, if you have that type of audience, then you should be able to ask for more money, and, people should pay it to you. If you have 400,000 followers on Instagram, then yes, one photo on Instagram is worth a lot more to a brand, to you, to your audience, than somebody who has 1,000 followers. So, in those scenarios, you can ask for an increase. And some networks will say flat out, no, this is what the payment is. And some will say, okay, for this, we're willing to investigate that and see if we have the money to give you that in this campaign, if it makes sense for us. But generally speaking, I would say within most networks, the payment is what it is. And you'll probably see within a network some consistency amongst the payments. So you'll want to know, in this network, am I able to get, something that I feel good taking as a payment in general?
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, I am talking about the really, really big bloggers. So, if you have that huge size, you shouldn't have to work for the same thing that somebody who has 8,000 unique visitors is working for if you're still having that great quality of work too. That still is super important. So
Okay.
that's what you can charge. And then obviously, and I mean I've already said this, but you're going to need to be creative and be different in your post. Avoid the most obvious idea. Think about longevity. I mean, I have a post right now that's going viral that was about making a cleaning product. I did it 2 years ago, and quite frankly, I look back now and I look at the photos and I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish these were better.
I think you have one of those.
Yeah, everybody has one of those, right? Where like Pinterest blew it up, and and you're like, how, why? Like all these other posts that are so much nicer. So think about longevity, and think about also, when you're actually crafting your idea, is it something that's tied to a holiday? Is it something that year after year is going to come back and give me traffic? Is it something that really is an idea for the long run? And know that aesthetics count. I mean, we are bloggers. Photos are super important. Please do not post that photo to your blog that is like that iPhone photo with the weird Instagram filter on it that like might have looked cool on Instagram, but when you blow it up, it's really not that good. So know that that really does count, especially if you're a food blogger. At which point, photos are just so important. I can't even say. So know that these things count. Use high-quality original photos in your post. Don't be one of those stock photo using people. Do not start your post out with like a brand logo. I know a lot of people do that for the featured image, and then they wonder why they're not getting chosen. We want to see your big, beautiful, creative photos. Like, I don't need to see a picture that's of a brand's logo. We know what it is that you're doing, and quite frankly, it's sort of in the organic feel of your post. So avoid that. Read your own work. Does it sound like an ad? I mean, does it sound like you're just saying the product name over and over and pushing the product and pushing the product? Or does it sound like an authentic story in which you are still talking about the product? It's not just, one line where it's hidden in there talking about it, but are you weaving it in there in a way that, people will want to read it and they don't just click off the page because they go, oh, okay, this person was clearly just paid to talk about this and doesn't really have anything to say about it. So that's stuff that we are looking for when we're going through posts and checking them and figuring out, who do we want to work with in the future. So know that those are the things that are really, really important. And avoid making amateur mistakes. These are super common things that somebody like me has to spend a lot of time going back to people and asking them to fix. And we definitely keep track of it. If somebody is constantly doing these things, then we probably don't want to work with them as much going forward because it just makes a lot more work for us on the back end. And certain brands are very, very sensitive about some of these things, so it can actually create a big headache for the company in terms of the brand getting upset about it. So make sure that your take incorporates the brand agenda. Tell your story, but make sure you're hitting the bullet points too of, like I said, if it's something that's about having a family day, don't make it a thing about going out and drinking with your girlfriends at night. Like, they're probably not the right, it's probably not the right fit. So make sure that whatever it is that you do, you're still speaking to what you're asked. Do not use do follow links. I think basically all of the networks at this point ask for no follow, since that's basically the rule and that's how it should be. If you are being asked for do follow links, something is probably wrong and you probably should not be working with that network. But do not, please, and then don't tell us if we come back and we say to you, you have a do follow link. Don't go, but I have a plugin. It's like, yes, we know you have a plugin. Your plugin is not working. So we spend a lot of time, and it's such a silly thing, and it's so easy to just double check for. Get yourself that no do follow link checker if you don't have it already. It highlights the no follow links red, and anything that is blue is a do follow link, and I so far have never seen it make a mistake. That's just don't easy. Yeah.
What was that called, Jillian?
It is called the no do follow, I believe, link checker, but it's no do follow. If you type in no do follow to Google, that should probably pop up. It's something where you can basically like right click on your screen and enable it. And then any of the links in a post, you'll be able to see, are they no follow, are they do follow, it highlights them. And it's a good double check because, again, sometimes your plugin is not working. If you're on Blogger, sometimes when you go back into a post that you've already saved, it totally knocks out all the no follows that were on it. So it's a really great way to make sure that you don't get that email that's saying, by the way, you have a do follow link. And it's like, we have to come back to you and ask about that because, again, you get into trouble with Google. We don't want to get our client into trouble with Google. It's just not good for anybody. So mention the brand properly, please. You know, there are a lot of different, you know, you may have said the brand a certain way or written it a certain way your whole life, but definitely make sure that you're writing it properly. You can usually reference your instructions. If a brand is sensitive about it, they will probably be mentioned several times, highlighted, bolded, all of that kind of great stuff to make sure that the brand is mentioned properly. So please do that. Obviously, then that brand is very sensitive about how they're mentioned. Always disclose as you're directed if you're given certain things. I know in Social Stars we do not accept hashtag SP or hashtag spawn. The FTC, as far as I'm concerned, has said that they're not down with that. So for us, we want something that's either, you know, we've said we'll do ad, we'll do sponsored, we'll do client. We feel that all of those things right now make it clear that there is a relationship between you and this company or this post in which you're being paid, and we think that that's pretty clear to the average person, whereas hashtag SP probably is not, unless you are a blogger. So please definitely follow whatever it is in your network that you're working with that you feel comfortable with. Please follow as it's been directed to you to disclose, and you know, report your work as you've been told. So many people go do the work and then just never report it, and then it's, how can I pay you? I really want to pay you. I know you've done the work, but until you give me the links, I can't pay you. So report your work. Don't forget to do that. We want to pay you.
Can I jump in
and
here
then be
for a minute,
memorable.
Jillian? With a couple questions. One of them is from Jenny. She's asking specifically about Social Stars. How long does the application process take once it's completed and submitted to Social Stars? And do you let the applicant know whether they've been accepted or not?
So yes, we do let people know. However, we have a pretty nice little waiting list in there right now. The way that we work is we usually won't just randomly accept people unless we think that there is a viable opportunity for them in the near future. So rather than having you sort of sitting there, you know you've been accepted, you're kind of hanging out there and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and you don't get an opportunity, we really onboard people into our community as we feel that we'll have something for them. A lot of times, you know, if we see a blog that comes in and it's just very clear that, you know, it's probably not a fit, we don't feel like the quality of work is there, or the following is just so small, like somebody who might have, you know, 400 unique visitors a month. It's like, I would love to support small, I'm very big supporter of small blogs, but I think it's probably hard to justify giving somebody the kind of payments that we make for that reach. So we really try to let people in as we feel that there's going to be an opportunity for them, so that, you know, they have that experience from the beginning. If you are told that we don't have a spot for you right now, you will get an email telling you that. If you've been accepted, you will get an email telling you that. But we definitely right now, and this is something that we're working to revise. As you know, I just had a baby and went on maternity leave and I'm coming back. But we are definitely looking to sort of clear up that backlog a little bit too. And we've been doing some of that in the last couple of weeks. So there are a bunch of new members, but now we're trying to go through and see. And sometimes there are people where I think, you know, I don't want to tell you no and give you a no, but I think that there might be something for you, but I don't have anything yet. That might be where you find yourself sitting in that sort of waiting area. And if you're unsure, you certainly can email. Do our absolute best to get back to everybody who is emailing about things like that. Obviously, though, most of our focus goes towards taking care of people that are in the community, that are working on campaigns, and that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers your question.
It helped me. Okay. Another question was another question is when you're looking at stats like Google Plus stats or Google Analytics or anything like that. When people are having to give you those Google Analytics stats, should they go back for the last 6 months, 3 months, just the prior month, as far as their average on their stats? Like, how far should they go back? What are you looking for?
I like to ask for 3 months because I like to look at the past, but I also really like to know, sort of what's going on now. And I know 30 days probably isn't always the most accurate. You have one viral post, suddenly, woo, this is pretty neat. We would like to see a little bit more. I like to see probably 3 months. If you want to share 6 months, nobody's going to say, oh, please don't share that with us. We're pretty open. What we want to see is some sort of transparency where if you're saying I have this following, then it's probably good to be able to back it up and to show that it's consistent, that it's not one post, taking over or anything like that. So I would say 3 months is a pretty good rule, but we're flexible.
Okay, and I have another question from Heidi. She was talking about when you receive a product to do like a sponsored post, and you hate the product. How should you proceed with the post?
Okay, and this happens to the best of us. I would say don't proceed with the post to start. I would say the first thing you should absolutely always do is reach out to whoever your point of contact was for the campaign and be honest with them and just let them know, look, I just hated this, or it totally didn't do what it said it was supposed to do, or whatever it is. I've had to do this personally. It is not a fun conversation to have. However, somebody like me is going to be like, you know what? Thank you for being honest and for letting me know, and we'll figure this out. Odds are, if it's a sponsored post, probably somebody's going to say, you know what, this is not going to be good. Let's not pursue this. And figure out, what we'll do, whether we'll sub somebody else in, how, you and I will figure out what's going to happen. Quite frankly, I haven't had it happen yet, social stars. That's kind of nice. But if it does happen, definitely reach out to your person that you're in contact with. Don't go writing a post that says you love it. If you didn't love it, that's not what we want. And don't go writing a post, that's just ragging on some company. It is a sponsored post, so it's not a review. I hope everybody knows, reviews and sponsored posts are different things. They are meant to do different things. So definitely reach out to whoever your point of contact is. They will absolutely be able to come up with a solution for you. And do it as quickly as you can. Don't wait until the night before, like, deadline to reach out to them. Then they'll be less happy. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then be memorable in a good way. Meet your deadlines. Always meet your deadlines. Please, please, please. Odds are the deadline you've been given also has a corresponding deadline for the person in charge of the campaign and for the company in general to then give information back to the client. So if you have gone on vacation and just completely forgotten about it, then you are basically putting a hole in what was promised to the client, so that makes everybody look bad. So take the deadline seriously. If you think you have a problem, if something comes up, talk to your contact person right away. Generally speaking, we are super easy to work with and very flexible and understanding, as long as it's not an every time kind of thing. If your child winds up in the hospital, we're going to work with you, If you just forgot, that's pretty bad. Try not to let that happen, but be honest, Let people know what's going on. We'll do our best to work with you. The end result that everybody wants is a happy client, a happy influencer, and a happy network. So definitely don't wait till the last minute. Speak up. When in doubt about your instructions, ask. If there's anything that's unclear and you just feel like you don't know, just ask. There really are no stupid questions. I have people asking me questions all day long. Nobody's ever bothering me. I'd much rather them ask than write this post that has incorrect information or has the wrong take on it because they weren't sure. Be consistent in your work. This is so incredibly important. I can't even tell you. When we go to certain people, we're going to you because somebody like me has really taken the time to know your blog and familiarize themselves with your content and what you put out there. So if you're consistently always putting out, we know it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be great, it's going to have like an awesome take on something, it's going to be original. There are certain people that we know that that will always be the case with. Those are the people who are just going to get more work because we know in a pinch that they're going to deliver. So be consistent. Don't have, you know, a huge post where it's beautiful DSLR photos and then another one where it's these blurry photos taken from your cell phone. Like, really be consistent. And seek to find out, you know, if and how you can improve your work. Even, you know, some of the best bloggers, there's still room to do something a little bit better. Maybe somebody might tell you, you know, your photos are beautiful. I would have liked a little bit more of a story in your post. I would have liked you to actually talk a little bit more about what you were doing or how the product worked for you. So definitely ask on things like that. And if you are going to ask, though, be open to a critique of your work. There's nothing worse than taking the time to give somebody feedback and you just know they don't want to hear it, and that they're not open to hearing it. If you are going to ask for that and if you do want to improve, definitely be open to it. It's the best thing I ever did for myself. When I started with sponsored posts, I had a friend who was very tell it like it is, who happened to be in a position similar to my position, and I just asked her to be frank with me, and she was. And, you know, it wasn't all happy things to hear, but in the long run, it definitely made it so that I could have a successful future. So I'm super grateful for that. And then the last thing is just be nice. When you're reaching out to somebody, you're looking for a payment, or if you are looking for advice on something, you know, just remember that these people are still people, and very much probably in most scenarios your colleagues. So, you know, there's no reason to have a bad attitude, I guess. I haven't really had those types of situations. I hear about them around, and I think, you know, everybody just has to remember that, you know, it's not some man working for some big company behind the machine. You know, these are definitely real people who have real lives too, and are almost all people, to be in this type of position where they want to talk to you, they want to know what's going on with you, and, you know, it just helps to remember you are still talking to a person. It's not some, like, unknown customer service person at some big corporation. So just keep that in mind. And those are all really good ways to make sure that people remember who you are and want to work with you. And then that's basically, I think, what you need to be able to make the money. And then I really think you should reinvest in your business. So if you've been doing sponsored posts for, you know, $200 a post, and you're saying, I can't buy a DSLR, I can't buy a DSLR, yes, you can. If you're making that kind of money and you're able to secure opportunities like that, then you should be able to invest a little bit of that money in your business and go back and get equipment or tools that you need to further your business so that, you know, you can make your posts better and continue to make money. So that's what I have to share with you, and if you have more questions, I would love to answer them.
Yes, we have a really good one, and this was asked at the very beginning, but I wanted to wait till the end to ask you. The question was, what does it mean to join a network, and what can it do for your blog?
Okay, so let me switch back here, I guess. Actually, be me now.
There you go.
All right, you see me now?
Yes.
So joining a network is essentially joining a group of people who have been basically chosen by the network to work with, where they'll be offering different types of work. Usually it's compensated. Usually it's in the form of sponsored posts where you're being paid on behalf of a certain company to work with them. And basically joining a network is having that ability to then receive those offers, those consistent offers of sponsored posts and sponsored work. So what they offer might be different. There might be some that are more community-like. We have like a little Facebook group that goes with ours. I don't really get into talking about lots of personal stuff in there. It's really to alert people more of the opportunities that are coming up. But it can really vary network to network, what it is that it means to be a part of that network. That answer that?
Yeah, I just like to add that the networks, like Social Stars, are collective bias and pollinate. Like, is it Today's Mama? Don't they have one too, right? And Blogger has a community like sponsored post applications and things of that network. So yeah, there's a lot out there.
There are a ton. I think somebody who has a really good list of them, if you want to check out a list, is, I believe, Megan Pollan from Sunshine and Sippy Cups. I think she has this massive list of what all the different networks are on her site.
We did share a link in the Facebook group a few weeks ago. Somebody was asking about different networks that are good to join. So there is the thread in the Facebook group.
Perfect. Yeah. And I mean, and again, ask around. Everyone will give you a different answer too of which ones they work with. So, do you guys have any other questions about just how to work with networks, or what it is that you think you want to know, what we're looking for?
There's a question from Julie Espy, but she's asking more about working directly with these companies, and Julie, I'm not sure that really applies to this conversation right now, but she's just asking, if you are working directly with a company, I would believe that a lot of these same principles would apply. You'd still want to send them a nice email introducing yourself with your good pitch, keep it short and sweet and to the point, flatter them a little bit, and follow up and get into the negotiations later. At least that's what I've always kind of gone with. But I don't see, as far as the network, the prices are kind of fixed versus working with a company. You have a little more leniency and you can negotiate a little bit more with them.
That's probably true in most scenarios. And I would say you probably have a lot more accountability for your analytics on whatever it is that you're delivering them, whereas the networks will probably go and pull all of that from the hashtags, from just the technology that they have, which is probably more expensive than a lot of things that we as individual bloggers can afford. Mm-hmm. So you are working directly with them. Definitely you have a little bit, more to bring to the table as far as negotiation probably, but you'll also have a lot more personal responsibility as far as delivering analytics and things like that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Nancy, were there any more questions?
There's one more and it was from Rachel. She said, I never really get feedback from campaign managers, so how should we ask?
I think being really specific is the best thing, because if you say, how am I doing? It's kind of like, okay, well, you're probably doing pretty well if you're getting more posts. But if you are, saying, if you give a specific post and you say, here's my most recent post, I would love to know, where I can improve here, or, if there are certain things that I can do to make this better, somebody then will probably come back and say, or if you say, I felt like this wasn't my best post, what could I have done here? I had a bad day, or you can point out things that you say, oh, like, I wish that I had gotten better pictures, but was there anything else that, caught your eye that you wish you would have seen? And if you at least give us like a little nugget to sort of work with, it's a lot easier, because again, we are reading so many posts, we are looking at so many bloggers, and I have relationships with a lot of the people that we work with in Social Stars, where I definitely spend time. I know who their kids are, and like I follow them on their channels and really do pay attention to what's going on with them, and that's super important in my mind. But I may not remember that exact post or what it is that they are hoping to get. And if you can give me more specifics, and I can definitely come back to you with more specific feedback. And I also know that rather than giving the blanket statement of how can I do better, that you are actually looking for real feedback. You're not just saying, oh, I want to do better, so that, it looks like you're open to feedback. I want to know that you really are going to listen to what I'm going to tell you, and you care, and you want to take it to heart and improve from it. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jillian. We just ran over 1 hour slightly. This is really great information. I think that a lot of our members are really going to get some great information from this. It will be posted to YouTube for everybody who wasn't able to attend live. It'll be there on the in the OBC forum. Lisa will have the forum thread started there, so Any questions that didn't get answered through the conference, through the video here, please send them there. If you have any comments about it, please put it in the forum. I ask that we don't clog up our Facebook page too much. And this way also Jillian can get in there and review the questions, provide a little more feedback throughout the course of the week. Yeah, I mean, throw out a pretend pitch to her. Come up with something that you really love and are passionate about. Write up a little 3-minute pitch and say, hey, Jillian, would this be something great? If you had this product that you were sponsoring, would you go for this idea? And, you know, set it out there. Put it out there and see what she says, see what happens. She has had great success with her own personal blog and has, you know, been supporting her family with this and has made a career out of it. So listen to her advice. I'm going to. And I'm looking forward to more Social Stars campaigns for holiday treats. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they're coming.
I think there might be some things coming. I may or may not be able to say anything about that.
That's okay. Holiday season's coming, and I know people want their treats, so something will be out there.
There are definitely some things in the pipeline for you guys. So, and yes, and I would love to answer whatever questions. I'm a very open book, and I love interacting with everybody, so definitely I will be looking for your forums to answer questions.
All right. Thank you so much again, Jillian, and Nancy and Lisa for being on, and we'll see you guys in a little bit for our next presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.